Good morning, first grade. We are going to learn something that I'm really excited about today. But first, we're going to start by reviewing some of our first 26 phonograms. So these are the ones that are a little bit trickier. Sometimes we get mixed up and we don't start them in the correct spot. So we're going to practice them and make sure we're starting them in the correct spot today. All right, our first phonogram is S, Z. What are you going to write? Good. S, Z. Now, what kind of a letter is S, Z? Very good. It is a clock letter. So where are we going to start our S, Z? Good. Over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. All right, write it and say the sounds while you write it. All right, put your pencil down. Now tell me what you wrote so I can write it and you can check your work. What did you write, class? All right, Z. All right, so I start over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Z. All right, so if you had something besides this, then pause the video, cross it out, write this in, saying it while you write it. All right, our next phonogram is B. Now, what kind of a stroke do I start B with? Look at my mouth. That might help you. B. B. My mouth looks like a line. So B is a tall line letter. And where do our tall line letters start? Good. At the top baseline. So find your starting spot, write your B, and say the sound while you write it. All right, when you're finished, put your pencil down. And then you get to tell me what to write. Class, what did you just write? Oh, B. All right, good. So I start at the top baseline and close to my last letter. Down, and then we go back up and around B. All right, so if you didn't have this, if yours is pointing the other direction because you didn't start it here and close to the last letter, then go ahead and fix that. All right, our next phonogram is P. What sound are you going to write? Good. P. All right, and look at my mouth. What kind of a letter is P? My mouth kind of looks like a line, right? Like with my B. So B is a line letter, and P is also a line letter. But P is a short line letter. So where are we going to start our P? Good, at the dotted line, and of course close to our last letter, so we make it going in the correct direction. All right, write your P and say the sound while you write it. All right, class, what did you just write? P. All right, good. I know that's a short line letter. So it starts at the dotted line. I go down and then back up and around. All right, so if you didn't have that, make yours look like mine. Okay. The next phonogram is Z. What are we going to write? Good, Z. And where is the starting spot for Z? Good, it's at the dotted line and close to our last letter. All right, so find that starting spot and write your Z and say it while you write it. All right, class, what did you just write? All right, Z. So I'm going to start close to my last letter, and at the dotted line, start with the dash stroke. Z. All right, so if you didn't have that, and that includes if yours looks a different way than mine does, if it's facing the other direction, that's not right. So you got to cross that out and write it. If you start close to your last letter, you'll never get mixed up and write it backwards. All right, our next phonogram is Qu. What are you going to write, class? Good. How many letters do I need to make the sound? Excellent. I need 2 letters. So do I need to leave a clock space after my last phonogram? Excellent. I sure do. All right, so leave a clock space and then find your starting spot. So what kind of a letter is the first letter in? Good. It's a clock stroke letter. So after I've gone over after I've skipped a space, I'm going to then find my starting spot, which is, say it with me, over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. All right, now write your and say the sound while you write it. The sound, yeah, just one. Don't forget to use the special signal to show me that those letters go together to make that sound. Do you remember the special signal that says that? All right, class, what did you just write? Good. All right, so I left a clock space, then I start over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. And the tail of this letter curves in the direction we read and write. Is this? No, I can't say anything by itself. It needs its friend. All right, so I need to add the second letter for my first letter to be able to say. And then what's my special signal that the 2 letters work together to make that sound? Excellent. I need to underline it. All right, that is our special signal that you use and that I use, and that lets us know. It's our special signal. It says these work together to make that sound. Kind of like having a little secret code with you. All right, and so before we start our next letter, we're going to leave a clock space after our as well. All right, so the next letter is D. Our next phonogram is D. All right, so what kind of a letter is D? Look at my mouth if you're not sure. D. Good, it is a clock stroke letter. So where do we start it? Excellent, over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. All right, so write your D and say the sounds while you write it. All right, class, what did you just write? All right, D. All right, I'll write that now. So I leave my space after my and then I start over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Oops, that could have been a little bit more beautiful, but D. All right, the next one we're going to do is A, Ah. What are we going to write, class? Excellent. All right, so where's the starting spot for Ah? Very good. Over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. So write your Ah and say the sounds while you write them. All right, class, tell me what you just wrote. Excellent. Ah. So we'll start over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock. Ah. Right, I hope you can see the little tail there. The glare's kind of in the way. We'll move the camera so you can make sure yours has that little tail too. Otherwise, it would make different sounds. All right. Let's see. The last one we're going to do is class. What are you going to write? Good. All right. So that one has a special starting spot. So that one is what kind of a letter? Good. It's a clock stroke letter, but it has a different starting spot than our other ones. Tell me where that starts. Where does our F start? Very good. Over a space just below the top baseline, touch 2 on the clock. All right, so write your F and say it while you write it. All right, class, what did you just write? Good. All right, so I start over a space just below the top baseline, touch 2 on the clock. And if I do that, it helps it so I don't reverse this letter. All right, if we remember to start there and go down. All right, great work, first grade. Next, we're gonna learn, in our next lesson, you're gonna learn one of my favorite things in first grade literacy. Yay!